Okay, today we're going to make an old-fashioned butter pastry crust. We're going to start with 225 grams of all-purpose flour. You want unbleached for this. We're going to go in with 15 grams of granulated sugar. This is just going to help with browning in the crust. And we're going to go in with 4 grams of diamond crystal kosher salt. Alright, now we got our butter. This is 8 ounces of cold butter straight from the fridge. That's 225 grams. And we're going to cut it into half-inch sized blocks. You want to make sure you use really cold butter for this. Don't soften it. So err on the side of larger chunks if you need to. Once you have all the butter cut, we're just going to mix all the dry ingredients together with a whisk. Then we're going to add the chunks of butter to the bowl. And you're going to want to toss these in flour and make sure all the chunks are separated and make sure they're all evenly coated with flour. Then you're going to move them all to one side of the bowl. You're going to pick up a chunk of butter and squish it between your fingers. Just give each chunk just one squish and put it on the other side of the bowl. And you're going to repeat this till all of the chunks have been squished. After that's over, go through to make sure that you didn't miss any chunks, and then we're going to add 4 ounces of very cold water. And just bring all this together into a mass until it forms a lump that you can press against the side of the bowl. That's good. That's what we're looking for. It shouldn't appear too wet. Okay, we're gonna just flour the table, and we'll turn the dough out onto the flour, and we're just gonna knead it just a couple times to make sure that everything comes together and it can be easily rolled out. Okay, now we're going to dust the top of the dough with just a bit more flour, and we're going to start rolling it out. The object here, we're going to roll this out into a large rectangle. So sometimes it's easier to start with the shape that you want it to be in the end. In this one, I'm rolling from a circle to a rectangle, but it's going to be fine on this. And you may have to cheat the corners a little bit, reshape the corners to make it look more like a rectangle as you go. So just keep rolling and be patient. Now, once it's in a rectangle, we can do a book fold. So we're going to fold both sides in like this. And you don't want too much flour in between your layers, or they won't stick together. So we're going to get a brush, and we're just going to brush the flour away. We're going to fold these two sides together like this. And again, we're going to brush away a little bit of flour. And then we're going to do one more fold end to end on this. And that's it. We're just going to shape this a little bit so that it's kind of even. Then just cut it in half and put half in the freezer, and the other half we'll use for this recipe. Okay, we're going to add a little more bench flour and take the half of the dough that we're saving for this and just kind of round it up just a little bit if you can. You can see the layers are still prominent there. We're going to start rolling this out. You just want to do your best to roll it into a circle. Remember, if you put pressure on one side of the rolling pin, you're going to drive the dough in the opposite direction, so use that to your advantage. We're looking for a 14-inch circle, and so I'm just going to measure this real quick. It looks pretty good. We're going to move it to a parchment-lined sheet tray, and then you're going to want to cover this because we're going to let it rest for 2 hours. So you could use plastic. I'm just going to throw a Silpat on this. That way it won't dry out in the refrigerator when we chill it. So 2 hours. Okay, now to make the filling for the Pear Galette, you need 35 grams of granulated sugar. This could be toasted sugar or just regular granulated. And we're going to do about a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla bean powder. We'll do a 1/2 teaspoon of Chinese 5-spice powder. And a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cardamom. And we'll do 20 grams of tapioca starch. Now we'll just whisk together all the dry ingredients. Just like that. Okay, we've got 3 large pears here. These are slightly underripe anjou pears. We're just going to take the stems out. So you don't need to peel these, but they do need to be washed. We're going to cut them all in half. Then cut all these into quarters. Then we'll cut the core out of them, cut in at an angle. All right, take the core out. And after these are all cored, we're going to slice them into about 1/4 inch pieces. I like to use a radial cut and finish every cut towards the middle. Okay, now we're going to toss all these in the sugar and spice mixture. And we'll just mix the coat. And we're going to drizzle in a 1/2 ounce of apple cider vinegar. And just mix that in. Okay, so now we've got our chilled tart dough. I'm going to remove the silpat. And we're just going to arrange these pears in kind of a 10-inch circle around the pan and make a kind of a nice design out of them. Okay, once they're all laid out, we're going to take any remaining liquid and we'll just drizzle that right over the top. Okay, and then we're going to make a cut in the dough about every 5 inches or so. If you're baking this on a silpat, don't cut the silpat. Okay, now we're just going to fold the edges of the dough over and just lift on them just a little bit, just kind of give them just a little bit of tug. Don't stretch it out too much. And the last one we're going to tuck under the first one. Alright, we're going to chill this while we make our egg wash. Okay, for the egg wash, we've got 1 whole egg and 1 egg yolk. We're going to add about 15 grams of heavy cream and a good pinch of diamond crystal salt. We'll whisk this up. There you have it. Okay, now we're just going to egg wash the top of this. And we're going to get under the flaps because we want the flaps to stick together. And now we'll bake this about 400 degrees till it's nice and bubbly and the crust is golden brown.